Good evening, this is the Oscar Expert here with Brother Bro at the Sundance Film Festival. We're coming at you with a review for Call Jane. This is the directorial debut of Phyllis Nagy, who is best known as the writer for Carol. And it is about a housewife who, after getting an abortion herself, becomes involved in the world of underground illegal abortions. Underground world of abortions, but they have cookies, tea, and spaghetti. Yeah, it's sort of this tight-knit community of women, and she sort of finds kinship, and it results in a little bit of like a midlife awakening for her. This movie is basically about a suburban white woman who finds her way into activism and how that journey happens. And I thought that they explored that really well, and I could actually see why she became that and what was in it for her beyond just like, oh, I have to do the right thing. There was something else going on. Even though this movie's 2 hours, I did feel like the character was always kind of like developing and always kind of going somewhere. The movie's surprisingly breezy and kind of fun. It's kind of like a feel-good movie. It's no Judas and the Black Messiah, let's put it that way. I did see a criticism that it didn't have enough teeth and it didn't show activism as being a really radical thing. But I think that's like the point of the movie, is that activism can look like different things, and it's not necessarily something we have to approach through like heavy Marxist theory. This person was drawn in by very practical reasons and like basic empathy for other people's needs. I did struggle in the first act to find like the footing in this movie, and I think until she goes and gets a certain procedure, it didn't really pick up for me. But the way Phyllis Nagy took you through that procedure was when I sort of got locked in. It felt very intimate, and I liked that they showed every little beat in that process for her. And then that's when the film sort of becomes like breezy and fun, as you were saying. Yeah, it also does a good job sort of exposing a lot of the sexism that was prevalent in society. I mean, that's prevalent now and was even more so at the time that this hit movie takes place, where it's taboo for women to even know about like their own anatomy. And of course, you know, it hits all the points that you might expect as a movie that's about how women should have access to abortions. And there's never really a wrong time to hear that message. Unfortunately, you know, you'd hope that there would be a time where we don't need it anymore, but that's not the case. I don't know if this movie's gonna convert someone from one side to the other, but it definitely is just a reminder that there's so many reasons why a woman might want an abortion, and who are we to judge whether or not those reasons are valid? Like, to every single person, no matter what the reason, they make a point to say it's life-changing or even a life-saving operation. It's also just a really good story and like kind of this piece of history that a lot of people don't really know about. Elizabeth Banks, you really buy her in the role. I think she was like the perfect casting choice. She captures like that upper middle class housewife sort of ignorance, and you can also see that switch that's activated in her, like the feminist that maybe wants to get out. There's a couple solid supporting performances here too. Sigourney Weaver is one of the bigger names in the cast. She's pretty good. Though honestly, I think the movie could have dug a little deeper into both these characters. Yeah, we didn't really get any hard-hitting moments. Like, there weren't a lot of tears. You know, it's not heavy stuff. But I would have liked to see it go there. Yeah, I think it was a little too content with being light. And it ends up feeling a little unsubstantial at the end. This could have kind of felt like a hard-hitting, sort of like Oscar bait biopic, but you know, instead it chooses to just be kind of light. I'm still very okay with the fact that it chose to make this subject matter palatable. There are some conflicts in the movie that feel a little predictable, and like we've seen them before, like her conflict at home, which I thought was totally fine, but you know, the family doesn't know, and when will they find out, and how will that go, like basically plays out in ways that we've seen this kind of thing before. I agree, there's not a lot challenging here unless you're pretty anti-abortion going into it, and then I'm like curious what your response to this is going to be. I also think there's a really good example in here of how when you take down sort of like the capitalist mindset out of a system, you can be very effective in terms of establishing equity. They didn't really hit you hard with that, but it was absolutely in there, and I kind of wish they like pushed it in front of you a little bit more. Because that was a really interesting part of the story. And it's also a little bit of a brainer, like, oh, duh, that makes sense. I also thought Chris Messina did a really good job playing the husband. I don't think he draws a lot of attention to himself in the role, but that's kind of what I think is good about it. He doesn't make that character like likable or unlikable. You can kind of see where he's coming from, and I think that's what he needed to be. The daughter looked really old, and that was weird. Nothing groundbreaking, but like a good movie. An enjoyable movie. I'd go with a 7 out of 10 on this one. Yeah, I would also go with a solid 7. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Is Jane calling you?